All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about our ancient hardware. Our bodies, and why it so often feels like they're struggling to keep up in this modern world. You ever get that feeling? Like your body is this glitchy piece of tech that is just screaming for a software update? Well, you're not wrong to feel that way. It turns out there's a really good reason for it.
I love this quote because it just nails it. Every single one of us is carrying around these parts, these reflexes, these responses that, they made perfect sense for our ancient ancestors. But today, they're kind of a mismatch, right? And it all comes down to this one big idea.
Evolutionary mismatch. That's the name of the game, and it's the core idea we're going to be exploring. And look, it's not about being flawed or broken. It's just that our biology, it changes so much slower than our world has. Think about it. Evolution doesn't just toss out the old plans and start fresh. Nope, it just tweaks and modifies what's already there.
So, let's get into some real-world examples. First up, we're going to look at some leftover physical parts that are creating some very, very modern problems.
Okay, so check this out. It's the story of our jaws. Our ancestors, they needed these massive, powerful jaws, right? Because they were eating tough, raw plants and meats. But then, we discovered fire. We started cooking, and suddenly our food got way softer. So over time, natural selection started to favor smaller, more delicate jaws. But, and this is a big but, there was a catch. Here's the problem. Our jaws got smaller, but our DNA never really got the memo to, stop making all 32 teeth. And that's exactly why so many of us end up with painful, impacted wisdom teeth. It's a perfect example of our lifestyle just sprinting ahead of our own anatomy. All right, so that's the hardware. But what about the software running on it? Let's talk about our ancient instincts and how they can totally misfire in today's world. This comparison just lays it all out. Think about it. For our ancestors, that fight or flight response was an absolute lifesaver. You see a tiger, your body just floods with adrenaline and cortisol, you either fight it or you run like heck, and then it's over. The threat was right there and it was fast. But today, our bodies literally cannot tell the difference between that tiger and a work deadline. So, because our stress today is usually psychological and it just never ends, that ancient alarm system gets stuck in the on position, and our bodies were never designed for that kind of chronic alert. Over time, it just wears us down, damaging our immune systems, our hearts. We're basically built for a short, intense jungle battle, but we're living in a world of endless meetings. All right, now for the fun stuff. Let's talk about the ghosts that are haunting our biological machine. I'm talking about things like goosebumps, or that bizarre jolt you get right when you're falling asleep. These are reflexes that have mostly lost their original purpose, but for some reason, they're still hanging around. So let's take goosebumps, for example. Back in the day, when our ancestors were all furry, these tiny little muscle contractions would puff up their fur. This did two things. It trapped the layer of air to keep them warm, and it made them look bigger and scarier to predators. Pretty useful, right? Well, for us, the muscles still do their thing, they still contract, but with no fur to puff up, it's just an echo. It's a ghost of a once useful response. And what about this? I'm sure you felt it, that sudden full-body jolt that wakes you up right as you're drifting off to sleep. That's called a hypnic jerk, and one of the coolest theories about it is that it's a leftover reflex from when our primate ancestors actually slept in trees. That jerk could have been that last-ditch grab-the-branch reaction to stop them from falling out. Okay, so right now, it probably sounds like our bodies are just full of useless glitches and leftover junk. But let's switch gears for a second. What if some of these leftover parts aren't useless at all? What if they've just found a new job? And that's the big question scientists are asking right now. Because as we learn more and more about the human body, we're starting to find these hidden purposes for parts that we literally used to call evolutionary junk. Look at this, the appendix. For decades, it was the poster child for useless organs. Now, we think it's a safe house for your good gut bacteria, helping to reboot your system after you get sick. And then there's the plantaris muscle in the leg. People thought it was just disappearing, but new research suggests it's actually become this super specialized sensor that helps your brain keep tabs on the tension in your Achilles tendon. They've been repurposed. How cool is that?
So what's the big takeaway here? Where does all this leave us? Let's pull all these threads together and figure out how we should think about this personal museum of antiquities that each of us is walking around in.
Seriously, just stop and think about it for a second. Your own body is a collection of these amazing stories. You've got wisdom teeth telling the story of the discovery of fire. You have a stress response that was built for surviving the savanna. You've got these little ghost reflexes from a furry past, a repurposed appendix finding a new gig, and yeah, even a tailbone. A little reminder that our ancestors once had tails. And this right here is probably the most important thing to remember. Evolution is not some master engineer trying to create a perfect machine. Not at all. It's more like a tinkerer in a garage, just fiddling with what's already there, making sure the end result is just good enough to survive and have kids. So our glitches? They aren't mistakes. They're actually features of a survival strategy that has been incredibly successful. So, the next time you're feeling stressed out by an email or you get annoyed by one of your body's weird little quirks, just try to remember this. You're not out of sync. You are a beautifully, wonderfully complicated survivor. You're a modern human living inside this incredible, slightly glitchy, but absolutely fascinating biological time capsule. And really, what could be cooler than that?